Good day. Thank you for tuning in to this 2019 primary election candidate forum for the City of Olympia Mayor. The forum is presented by the League of Women Voters of Thurston County and Thurston Community Media. The League is a nonprofit organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in their government. The League neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties, and we are nonpartisan. The League registers new voters, works to get out the vote, studies issues, and advocates for its positions with governing bodies. Despite its name, the League is open to both men and women of age 16 and up. I'm Phyllis Farrell from the League, and I'll be moderating this forum. The candidates for the City of Olympia Mayor are Phil Cornell, Cheryl L. Selby, Nathaniel Jones, Brenden, Clerget, and David Ross. Unfortunately, Phil Cornell could not be with us today. For this forum, each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. Then I'll ask questions in alternating order. The person first asked the question will have 2 minutes for a response, followed by 1 minute from the other candidates. There will be 1 minute for closing statements at the end. We'll begin with opening statements from the candidates, beginning with Cheryl L. Selby, followed by Nathaniel Jones, Brenden, Clerget, and David Ross.
Thanks, Phyllis. Hello, I'm Cheryl Selby, Mayor of Olympia, and I'd like to explain why I'm running for re-election. I was born in the Seattle area and spent my childhood exploring the Olympic Peninsula with my family. When it came time to raise my own, I knew I wanted a smaller community with a strong public school district. The amazing quality of life in Olympia made my decision easy to move here. Once in Olympia, I was impressed by the passion that longtime locals exhibited for their community. The first job I had was working for the City of Olympia Parks and Recreation Department, and later I was a manager for the Safe and Sober Driving and Thurston County Safe Kids programs. I worked with a vast array of community members with many diverse backgrounds, and what I took away from my years working in public safety was that every person has a story and is worthy of grace and redemption. As well, I volunteered in the Olympia School District as an art partner, PTA president, and served on numerous board and levy campaigns. It was the positive experience of working on school campaigns that made me love the process of working with a wide variety of viewpoints to achieve a common goal. And I serve as the co-chair of Olympia Citizens for Schools to this day. In 2006, I made the leap into the private sector by opening a retail clothing store. Vivala was an amazing experience, and I was able to grow into 2 locations over 12 years. During those years, I learned to act as a catalyst for small businesses and loved encouraging financial independence for women. I've carried on that energy by becoming a business coach through the Washington Center for Women in Business. My time on council, and now as your mayor, has been some of the most meaningful of my life. I hope to bring my strong mix of public, nonprofit, private, and now elected experience into my next term, and with your support, make Olympia a model for state capitals in America. Thank you.
Nathaniel?
Well, great. Thank you for this opportunity to speak directly to voters. After 2 terms on the Olympia City Council, I'm running for mayor because Olympia deserves new direction. And with that experience, I am ready to be Olympia's next mayor. Olympians are proud of our hometown. We have much to be thankful for. We live in an exceptional place with exceptional people, and I see a bright future for our community. But Olympians are also aware that we are facing challenges. Housing costs are soaring, homelessness is growing, and the climate crisis is worsening. I'm proud to have authored the resolution that set a new direction for Olympia's homeless response. But a bunch of tents in downtown and a few tiny houses really don't meet the need. I'm proud to have worked with the county commissioners and opened the door to a regional homeless response, because we need leadership that gets things done. Olympians want to help people who are ready to move in a positive direction, and we want a downtown that's more welcoming and enjoyable. We need leadership that can bridge divides and build effective partnerships. We don't have enough homes, and we have growing demand, and that's what makes the costs grow. We need to build more housing. And I'm proud to have worked with PSE, state agencies, and local officials across the state to get us off of coal-fired energy and into 100% renewable electricity. I am the environmental candidate who will lead the way to new jobs and a better economy through clean energy and clean water. I'm confident that we can address our challenges. We need to stop reacting and start leading. This is our time for bold action and a new direction. Thank you.
First of all, thank you to League of Women Voters for having us out to speak, and to the TCTV viewers at home that are tuning in to watch us. I've lived in Olympia for my entire life. I was born and raised here, attended Olympia High School. My family dates back over 80 years, and I'm a fourth-generation Olympia resident. When speaking with my family, friends, and fellow citizens, their concern over the state of the city is rapidly increasing, and I've found that to be a common theme with every person I've spoken with. People agree the city is rapidly deteriorating into the worst condition that it has ever been in. Olympia is amazing. I love this city, and I live, breathe, and eat this city. I would never live anywhere else, from the fantastic schools to the diverse communities and our beautiful trails, lakes, and recreation areas. Our city is truly one of a kind. However, that city and that beauty and the long-term safety of it is in jeopardy. We're facing a wide array of problems. Homelessness is at the forefront of every citizen's mind, with just cause, because the numbers show that it's expanding at an alarming rate, while contributing to our ongoing public health emergency that was declared specifically with that issue in mind. Some of the aspects of my Housing First approach to reduce homelessness in our area include public-private partnerships, growing relationships with nonprofits, both that I have, and leveraging those relationships, and finding new relationships, building relationships with our neighboring municipalities to help come up with collaborative ideas, as well as leveraging new federal grant money to help curb the cost of offering stable, permanent solutions for the homeless population in Olympia. It's clear that things are not getting better. The numbers show us that, and it's time to introduce new, effective, and efficient solutions that our citizens desperately need.
Hello, my name is David Ross. I'm a lifetime resident of Olympia, a product of Olympia Public Schools. I attended Evergreen and South Puget Sound Community College, where I taught for about 10 years. I'm a dad, a small business owner, and a local volunteer. I'm running because it's time to stop abandoning our downtown and giving Olympia over to lawlessness, chaos, and addiction. I want to help our city and those who need our help the most. Shelter, housing, services, and treatment are needed, and we need a clean, safe, welcoming city. There's an affordable housing shortage, and people should feel safe to walk the trails, parks, and sidewalks of our community. There's a mental health crisis, and kids, women, and seniors, and everyone should be completely comfortable enjoying our downtown. There's an opioid epidemic, and we deserve to have a community free of toxic medical waste in the form of dirty needles strewn about our community. Homelessness is a complex issue, often involving mental illness, substance abuse, job loss, medical issues, domestic violence, or a combination of factors. And it is completely unacceptable to have our forests, waterways, and public spaces absolutely devastated by human waste and garbage and suffering. These are not either-or issues. They're and issues. One issue does not negate the other. We need leaders who will address all sides of these issues. I worked locally in psychiatric social services for about 10 years, including being Thurston County's homeless outreach case manager for 5 years. I'm the only candidate with the background and experience to lead Olympia out of this quagmire. If you want Olympia to go in a new direction, vote for new leadership.
Okay, we'll begin with questions, and as a reminder, the person first asked the question will have 2 minutes for a response, followed by 1 minute from the other candidates. We'll begin with Nathaniel Jones. What land use planning procedures would you propose to manage the rapid addition of housing developments? How can the city induce developers to build more homes in the city at an affordable price?
Well, I would start by saying that we should turn to our comprehensive plan, which gives us guidance on that set of land use questions. Growth management is represented in our comprehensive plan and tells us where we should have more compact neighborhoods, where we should have mixed use, and how that all works with our transportation system. I think there are real opportunities, though, for improvement in our current regulations and our systems. One of the things that I would do is that when there is a proposal for a multifamily apartment building, I think if it reaches a certain threshold of size, then we should set aside some of those apartments for median income and low income folks, just as a part of having the opportunity to build an apartment building in our town. I think there are a number of things that can be done in order to improve the opportunity for the construction of additional homes. I think that our cost of housing is directly related to a shortage of homes. The development community and the finance community tells me that we're running short about 600 units a year, and it's been that way for about 10 years. I think we need to stimulate housing construction. You know, right now, there are many people who want to work in Olympia but can't afford to live in Olympia. In many ways, we're becoming a commuter town for people who work up north and bring their families and live in our community. But that puts extreme pressures on our own people. It's actually changing the demographics of Olympia. We need to address these issues.
Well, I agree with what Mr. Jones had to say about requiring developers to have a certain number of affordable housing units, but I would like to take that one step further. I think there's an issue with the current tax exemptions that we are handing out at the city. While rent control is illegal in Washington state, what is not illegal is private agreements with cities and municipalities with developers over allowed rent ranges on city-owned and public-owned land and/or public managed land. So RCW 3521-830 it actually exempts those types of agreements. I would like to see us enforce those types of agreements and change the way we hand out tax exemptions to developers so that these developers that are getting basically public subsidies and money can be sure that they're helping with the affordable housing crisis that we're struggling with. I don't think it makes any sense to give tax exemptions to people that are building, quote, market rate apartments that almost nobody can afford.
Washington has seen an increase of population of 900,000 people since 2010. There's no projection that sees that really slowing down. And as far as Olympia is concerned, we've heard estimates of 20,000 people moving into Olympia over the next couple of decades. I think what we need to look at as far as planning for housing is to really incentivize continuing to develop and grow downtown. Making downtown hospitable, a place where people want to live, work, and play. Up to this point, we've sort of run our government hoping that that will somehow clean up our community and make downtown and public transportation something that people want to use. In fact, while we've had developers trying to increase housing downtown, we haven't done those things to make that a place that people do want to live in large numbers. I think as we see contending with some restrictions on growing out, we need to really embody growing up, not out, and trying to look at how we can make living in more concentrated urban areas more hospitable and more enjoyable with a higher quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we've touched on quite a bit of the reasons why housing is so expensive in our area. We are projected to grow 40% over the next 20 years. We've done some great planning around that. I'm really proud of the comprehensive plan update that this council adopted, as well as our downtown strategy, which is planned to take 25% of that growth into our downtown, and you're starting to see that now. The growth that's downtown is causing some consternation for people. It's a little worrisome to see some of these big buildings coming out of the ground, but those were formerly parking lots. So it's not like we're pushing anybody out, we're just welcoming more people in. I will recommend that our land use committee look at the some policies in this coming year on inclusionary zoning, which would be more mixed income housing within the group, within the inventory that's coming online already. And recently, we also recommended that they look at the multifamily tax exemption program. Currently, it's 8 years for affordable or market rate housing and 12 years for affordable. We need to look at revising those.
All right, next question, starting with Brenden. How do you intend to protect local residents from the physical, economic, and public health effects of climate change while also providing pathways to economic prosperity? What are the greatest threats and opportunities in this regard?
I'll start with the greatest threat. Obviously, the sea level rise is something that we've talked about very deeply between not only the communities, but the government as well. Lot put together a very fantastic sea level rise plan, and I encourage citizens to go and read that and be involved in that process because they're taking input along the way with those things. I think the city needs to be more responsible and accountable in offering green solutions and making sure that the businesses and the citizens and all the organizations that work and operate in the city are as green and as efficient and renewable as possible. I think that it starts with us and being accountable as a community. If we can't get the citizens on board with a plan like that, then we can't expect anything to improve. But it starts with also the city setting a good example of doing that correctly. The other issues that are facing us downtown, I think that there are other waste issues. David touched on those previously with the needles and some of the human waste issues and the wastewater pollution that's going on with the unsanctioned camps. And I think we need to take a critical look at how we can clean some of that up as well. That's overflow pollution. That's not something that has always been going on. These are new issues, and these are issues we haven't dealt with before. I think it's really important for us to be critical not only of ourselves in the planning of fixing these issues, but finding, like I said, efficient solutions that can correct and help to not only give these people housing and get them out of the woods and out of our wastewater systems, but make sure that they're in a position to succeed so they don't end up right back where they were.
The report that Brenden referred to alludes to even just a 12-inch sea level rise could have Olympia being susceptible, or downtown Olympia being susceptible to 100-year floods every other year. We're actually predicted to fall somewhere between 32 and 64, I believe, inches of sea level rise potentially over the next 100 years. So we're talking about a massive amount of infrastructure at risk, as well as trying to predict where we will fall within that spectrum. I think one of the things that's obviously clear is that we need to act now in terms of preventing what we can, and also work in incremental stages, because this is going to be a solution for sea level rise. It's going to take place over decades and decades and decades. And right now, starting not only with funding, but with the small incremental changes that we can make to build and help bolster downtown Olympia from the impacts will make us sort of start from a proactive rather than a reactive response. Thank you.
So I'd like to note that Olympia has been a leader in environmental progressive policies for over 20 years. We've been worried about sea level rise for at least that long. This last draft plan that we adopted, the sea level rise adaptation plan, was one that was made in partnership with the Port of Olympia and Lot Clean Water Alliance. And so it's a very robust document, but it's also a living document. We know that we have to adapt that plan as more science becomes available. And I think we were able to do a great job with that plan by bringing in a consultant from a nationally renowned consultant from the East Coast. It's one that we vetted quite strongly with our community as well, but it's not the end-all be-all. I also want to note that we have recently done a climate adaptation and mitigation planning, and we know that we're vulnerable because we are such a low-lying community. So these are very, very critical things that need to be strongly based in science.
Well, it's fair to say that climate disruption is the number one threat to our future. We need an energetic response that transitions our systems to clean energy. But I think it's important to note that the transition presents amazing opportunities for a new economy. I believe that we're at the beginning of a substantial transition to a new energy economy. It won't be simple, but we all know that we need to get off of fossil fuels as soon as possible. And the way that we do that is by investing in development of new clean power and dramatically advancing conservation. We also do energy retrofits of our buildings. I'll build upon last year's Regional Climate Adaptation Plan, and I am very much involved in the current planning at a county-wide level for climate mitigation, that is reducing greenhouse gases. My work in the climate arena has been underway all 8 years of my term on the Olympia City Council, and I continue to advance those issues.
Okay. Starting with David Ross, what is your vision for the future of transportation in and around Olympia, including accessible public transportation, manageable traffic, and adequate parking?
One of the chief things that I would like to see, we suffer in Olympia, we're a progressive town, but we suffer really from the holy trinity of curses for public transportation. America's love affair with the car, a climate that is often cold, dark, and rainy for the majority of the year, and really our main public transportation has an image, I think, a public image problem with a bus system. And that's something that we've sort of allowed to fester and deteriorate, not the bus service itself, but the public perception about what a bus station should be like, for instance, and the accessibility of how to get into the bus system or how to get into Vanpool. And I think that that's something that we could do pretty easily in terms of resurrecting the image of taking public transportation and trying to make that something that is accessible for folks, but also has an image of being progressive, not something that we sort of cast to downtown or to the street people, or having the negative connotations that we've allowed with our main bus transit center, but with other bus transit centers even outside of Olympia, to be something that could be more accessible and usable for everybody.
Right, so transportation challenges, certainly that's the top of mind for everybody in this region up and down the I-5 corridor, and we're no different. I do want to put a little bright light out there in that our community supported the passage of the IT Intercity Transit ballot measure recently, and that is going to help increase the service to not just our rural communities, but increase the frequency of service in our urban areas, because that's especially important because Olympia just adopted ordinances to encourage and support infill in our urban areas, and that is basically built on those transit corridors so that we build those density areas along where we have bus services that can better serve our people and wean them off their car usage. Other things that I'd like to explore are the implementation of car share services, zip cars and those kinds of things, where a lot of people, like my children, they don't really necessarily want to even own a car, and so to have them have those options of either riding a shared car when they need it or using their bike. And we're also making great strides in our multimodal transportation implementation in our core as well. So we're doing good stuff.
Well, the first thing I want to talk about is Olympia's new transportation master planning. We have launched our first master plan, and it is well underway. There's been tremendous public engagement in that process. What that will do is bring bicycle and pedestrian transportation systems up to the same level of consideration as vehicle systems. We are integrating these systems together. We're also identifying missing links. There are many places in our transportation system where you need to take a circuitous route, but if we just made closed one more gap, you'd have a much more direct route. Our land use planning needs to be tied directly to our transportation planning. We shouldn't be building new housing where there isn't public transit. And it's important for me to be able to say that I spent 25 years of my career developing public transit systems at the local level. I believe that experience makes me unique in my ability to move our community forward in dealing with these transportation issues.
I want to echo some of what Cheryl and Nathaniel both had to say. I agree very much with the ride-sharing idea and the idea of encouraging people to go green by carpooling. I think that that's one solid step that the community can make without making drastic lifestyle changes along the way in order to try to accomplish, traffic and cleaning up the traffic problems that we're facing in the streets. I think another thing that the city really needs to get into, Tacoma and Pierce County, King County are all doing it, are the bike and scooter sharing services. The ability to basically come and pick a bike up and have your card or cash charged and then drop it off wherever you want, and they're accessible via an app. I think that has shown great success in urban areas. Los Angeles has instituted it. San Diego, I know, has done it as well. And they're huge cities with the same traffic problems that we faced, and they've seen a huge increase in usage of those. After talking with the old head of the Department of Transportation, who is actually my friend's mother, luckily, she said to stay hopeful. about the traffic problems in the city because the state is looking at Olympia as the center of the state and where the legislature works.
Right. We'll end with closing statements from the candidates, beginning with Brenden Clerget, followed by David Ross, Cheryl L. Selby, and Nathaniel Jones. 2 minutes each.
Well, I want to thank you again for having us out to speak. Like I said before, I live, eat, breathe, sleep Olympia, and I've seen this city at its best when I was younger and more recently near its worst. I want to bring forth new, fresh solutions and ideas to stimulate conversations and to help deal with the housing and homelessness problems that the city is currently facing. I want to play a leading role and a pivotal part in finding the solution that the city desperately needs. I have a responsibility to both my family, friends, self, and community, and my eventual children to ensure that they get to enjoy the city I remember when I was growing up. I vow to get the community involved, increase transparency, increase accountability, not only between the city and government, but of the citizens themselves, and increase accountability of us, your elected officials. We deserve a clean, safe, and secure Olympia, and that's what I plan to restore the city to if I'm elected.
Thanks for this opportunity to come here and share some about ourselves. To the Olympia voters, I'd like to say that I'd ask for your vote because I'm the only candidate who's put forth a specific plan on how to revitalize not just Olympia, but the entire region in terms of human services. Recover Olympia and the South Sound is really looking at enforcement, encouragement, and support in helping to bring really what is only the historic downtown in our region. We have other regional partners and municipalities, but the only historic downtown, dare I say the only real downtown, is downtown Olympia. It's downtown for everybody. It's downtown for Thurston County, and we've let it go. I have a plan to make Olympia encampment free by the end of 2020, and I would encourage you, if you can't vote in the Olympia elections, I would encourage you to ask your candidates if they would support the Recover Olympia and the South Sound and hold our leaders, wherever they are, accountable to working together, the 3 cities or 4 cities if we want to include Yelm as well, and the Thurston County elected officials on coming together with a way to help make the entire region more compassionate, more safe, and more welcoming to everyone.
Olympia deserves a mayor who is practical, open-minded, optimistic, and collaborative. Someone with strong leadership skills, a solid sense of community, and a record of achievement. As political dysfunction spreads across our nation from Washington, D.C., these qualities are more important than ever in local government, and that's why I'm running for re-election as Olympia's mayor. In the quarter century I've lived in Olympia, I've raised a family, owned a downtown business, supported high-achieving schools, and volunteered for nonprofit organizations. I've consistently worked for strong and fair law enforcement, excellent emergency services, and economic vitality for all. Communities can often get discouraged by difficult challenges like homelessness, but we must not lose sight of what makes Olympia great. Strong neighborhoods, thriving businesses, a vibrant art scene, and residents who work together with passion. After serving 6 years on council, I'm still energized by opportunities to bring together everyone in our city to find solutions that make Olympia stronger, more inclusive, and economically vibrant. I'd be honored to receive your vote for mayor in the August 6th primary. To see more information on my platform and my breadth and depth of endorsers, including all the mayors in Thurston County, and to learn as well how to support my campaign, please visit electcherylselby.com. Thank you.
Well, it's been my pleasure to participate in today's forum, so thanks very much to the League of Women Voters and to those of you who are watching. Through this campaign, I bring effective change to address community concerns. I'm not satisfied with leadership that reacts. We need leadership that leads. Our city needs effective partnerships to address homelessness, housing costs, and climate pollution. I want Olympia to be a safe and inviting place where people who work in Olympia can afford to live in Olympia. Now, these are not new issues. These are issues that have not been adequately addressed. Olympians are smart and involved. We know the challenges that face us, and most people want to be part of the solution. We deserve effective, collaborative leadership to address our shared concerns. I will bridge divides and build partnerships that reach across the region and throughout the community. This is our time to create the community we want for today and for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you for participating in the League of Women Voters Primary Election Forum for the City of Olympia Mayor. We encourage viewers to vote in the primary election August 6, 2019. Remember, ballots are postage free, so just put it in the mail. The League particularly thanks Thurston Community Media for their ongoing support and assistance.